Chances are you have no idea who this man is. But over 50 years ago, Camille made a decision that would change the NBA as we know it. See, Camille was a professional soccer player in his home country of Cameroon in the late 60s. And he was good. For 2 years, Camille traveled the country playing the sport he loved at one of the highest levels. But his father wasn't a fan of sports and saw soccer as an activity for those who couldn't succeed in other areas of their life. So just as his soccer career was taking off, he had to retire to focus on a more respected career in politics and local government. Fast forward 2 decades, and Camille would go on to be the chief to a small town just outside of Yaoundé, Cameroon. And throughout his life, Camille grew quite the family, 10 children in total. One of them you might be familiar with, named Luke Mbamute.
Okay, my bad, y'all, my bad. I heard Cameroon.
Luke, just like his father, loved soccer. His dream was to one day play professionally like his dad did. And growing up, Luke would focus on soccer and play the game almost exclusively until about the age of 13, where one day, while on his way to soccer practice, Luke noticed a basketball court that usually sat empty was being used by other local kids. For the next few days, every time he passed the court, these boys were shooting hoops. And slowly, Luke's curiosity got the best of him. So later that week, when no one was around, he grabbed his soccer ball, headed to practice, but this time, he stopped at the empty basketball court and took a shot.
Kobe.
And that was it. He was hooked. For the next 10 years, Luke gave up soccer to focus on basketball. He quickly rose through the ranks in Cameroon's youth system and even gained the attention of college scouts in the United States after being selected to be a part of Cameroon's national youth basketball team, eventually earning a scholarship to play basketball at UCLA. His parents were reluctant to send their boy to the US, but remembering the difficult—
Look about Moody. He made it. He made it to the NBA. I remember playing with him in 2K. Shout out to my guy Aaron Aflalo. Shout out to Jordan Farmar. And shout out to Darren Collison. Yo, stop playing with me, man. Not like that ass, man. Stop playing with me. Stop playing with me. I know my basketball shit.
Decision he had to make because of his father, Camille didn't want to stop his son from pursuing his dreams in sports. And so in 2004, Luke moved to the US and soon after enrolled at UCLA on a basketball scholarship. And 4 years later, after a decorated college career, Luke would become just the 3rd player in his country's history to be selected in the NBA draft. But this story doesn't end here. Because throughout his NBA career, Luke would frequently travel back to Cameroon to visit family and host his own basketball camp. And it was at his camp in 2011 where he discovered possibly the next great Cameroonian basketball player. A tall, lanky kid who just picked up the sport a few months prior, had no real skill or finesse, but had all the potential in the world. His real passion was volleyball, and he was supposed to move to France later that year to play professionally. But Luke knew this kid was special. So under Luke's mentorship, the teenage prospect continued to develop his skills and moved to the US just 1 year later in pursuit of his basketball dreams. In the US, he enrolled at one of the best prep basketball programs in the country and quickly became one of the most sought-after recruits, growing to 7 feet tall, watching tapes of Akeem Olajuwon to improve his game, and even earning himself a full ride to play at the University of Kansas. But not even
Okay, this is Joel Embiid, all right?
Luke could have predicted just how fast he would excel. His game was getting better almost by the day. His potential was seemingly unlimited. And after just 1 season in college, the 20-year-old Cameroonian recruit would enter the 2014 NBA draft, where he was selected with the 3rd overall pick.
I was a big Embiid fan going into this draft, bro. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. The only reason I wasn't really pushing Embiid at #1 chat was because of the injury issues. And I'm gonna keep it a bean, chat. In this period, bro, I was a sucker for post-up bigs. I was team Jahlil Okafor. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know. Let's see who else was in those last couple of years. Like he wasn't a post-up big, but I was a fan of Nerlens. I was a fan of the big men during these drafts, but a lot of them just didn't pan out, to be honest with you.
His name, Joel Embiid, the greatest Cameroonian player in NBA history. One man giving up his sports dreams over 50 years ago triggered a series of events that would eventually lead to 2 others having the opportunity to live out theirs. If Luke Mbamute never stopped at that court to take a shot on his way to practice, he might have never fell in love with the game. His journey to the NBA would have never happened. Maybe he focuses on soccer instead. He would have never hosted his—
Now my question is, how is he going to stretch out this story for another 12 minutes though? I'm interested as well.
Basketball camps, and we would have never discovered one of the greatest players the world has ever seen. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the butterfly effect, when a small and seemingly insignificant occurrence has rippling effects through time, leading to some consequential event,
Multiple
sometimes long after the initial
Okay,
event. And this is just one of many butterfly effects that would change the course of NBA history forever.
Okay. Bubba type shit.
Long before the Golden State Warriors were a dynasty riddled with Hall of Famers and a generational superstar, they were, not very good. The team spent the majority of 2 decades as one of the worst organizations in the NBA, finding themselves in the playoffs once in 18 years. Their one shining star during those years of perpetual mediocrity was a player who literally choked out the head coach.
Oh, wow.
But entering the 2010s, Golden State began to put together a team that could actually compete. An electric, high-scoring guard in Monte Ellis, a star and a real inside presence with David Lee, and
this is a cool 2K team, but I don't know if they actually competed during this time though. That potential, I guess. Well, I don't know.
Baby-faced assassin by the name of Stephen Curry. This core group was fun. Fans were re-engaged, but most importantly, they were good. The only thing standing in the way of them,
man, shout out to Oracle Arena,
was
dog.
Steph Curry's ankles. Every time the Warriors picked up steam and got on a rhythm, Steph would go down with another ankle injury. But in 2012, there was a specific injury that would alter the timeline of Steph's career and the timeline of the entire NBA.
Barry Neal dribbled off his leg.
Oh my goodness.
Steph Curry hurt his
ankle. Oh, this is just heartbreaking is all I can say. I hurt for him personally, and certainly hurt for the team and the organization.
Damn.
After getting his ankle troubles under control,
you know he had a bad history when that is the response. Like that ass could have just been an ankle sprain that he would have put out, like that would have put him out for 1 or 2 weeks. But yo, they were talking about like, oh shit, this is the 5th time, bro. This is getting really bad. You know what I'm saying? That's tough.
In his first 2 seasons in the league, Steph, seemingly
facts,
out of nowhere, sprains his ankle against the Spurs just 6 games into his 3rd year in the league. An injury that would snowball out of control and re-aggravate again and again. Unlike his sprains in the past, this one lingered, causing him to miss entire chunks of the season. Even with his military-grade ankle braces, the sprain kept creeping back up, eventually leading to a season-ending surgery just 2 months after his initial injury. Meanwhile, the Warriors' season was in a tailspin, and a change was desperately in need before their window on what looked like a promising group closed. A trade was in need, and it would be a move that would make or break the next decade of basketball in Golden State. Their trade target? Milwaukee Bucks center Andrew Bogut. The only way to get him, package one of their starting guards in the deal. The choice seemed pretty obvious at the time. Get rid of the guy with debilitating ankle issues and keep the borderline all-star scoring machine. And so on March 13th, 2012, just 2 days after Steph played his last game of the season before undergoing surgery on his right ankle, the Warriors and the Bucks agreed to a 5-player trade involving Andrew Bogut and Steven Jackson for Ekpe Udoh, Kwame Brown, and Monte Ellis. This came as a...
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really know enough about basketball back then to really know what the fuck was going on. But yeah, I wasn't a fan of that Monte deal, bro. I thought Monte was cold as fuck. And yeah, like Steph Curry was the injury-prone guard. I didn't know that. So for me, it was, yo, why the fuck would you trade your best player to get this boring-ass center and Steph Curry's injury-prone? You know what I'm saying? Just didn't really make sense. Oh, shit.
Massive shock to the NBA world as the Warriors just gave up arguably their best player and kept an unproven talent that couldn't even stay healthy. With every piece of evidence suggesting otherwise, the Warriors rolled the dice and chose to keep Stephen Curry instead of Monte Ellis, leading to a series of events that would completely alter the landscape of the NBA for the next decade and creating one of the greatest dynasties in the history of basketball. The choice was theirs, and they made the right one. Except, not really. Years after this trade broke news around the league, it was discovered that the original deal wasn't Monte Ellis for Andrew Bogut, it was Stephen Curry for Andrew Bogut. The Warriors were ready to build around the trio of Ellis, Lee, and Bogut. But after completing a physical with team doctors within the Milwaukee Bucks organization, the status of Curry's ankle injuries was unclear at best. So the Bucks denied the trade.
Nah, this sounds like that Malcolm Brogdon deal that happened this offseason, but on steroids, bro. Like that whole Malcolm Brogdon to the Clippers for Porzingis shit, and then that shit ended up being Marcus Smart, bro. This is exactly that, but on steroids, low-key, man. That's tough, though. That's tough.
And proposed a new one with Monte instead. And inexplicably, the Warriors accepted it. The same ankle injuries that gave Curry and the organization doubts about his future with the team, and even his future in the league, became the catalyst for one of the most pivotal trade decisions in the league's history.
I don't know if they still would have
Steph avoided those ankle injuries leading up to the trade, the Bucks would have accepted him in a package for Bogut. He would have ended up in Milwaukee, and the last 12 years of Warriors basketball that has redefined the league would have never happened. Instead, Steph would have joined the Bucks, where just 15 months after his arrival, he would have been paired with another player that might have sparked an entirely new dynasty.
Okay, they probably would have.
With the 15th pick in the 2013 NBA draft, the Milwaukee Bucks select Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Oh no, that fucked up David Stern.
Just one season after their blockbuster trade, the Bucks drafted an 18-year-old Giannis Antetokounmpo, which would have paired their new dynamic point guard with a young international talent.
Giannis and Curry would have been better than Shaq and Kobe. Relax, okay? Chill out. Now we're crossing lines. Nope. Nah, man. Now we're crossing lines, bro. Also, band dude. What the fuck?
They call the Greek Freak. If Steph avoided those ankle injuries, particularly this one against the Spurs that would linger and inevitably blow up his season in 2012, the Bucks would have accepted the trade offer that included him, and we may have seen an NBA featuring a Bucks team with two of the greatest players of all time. The Warriors dynasty potentially replaced with a Bucks dynasty, and an entire decade of era-defining basketball erased and replaced with an unstoppable team in Milwaukee. Back in 1998, after having the NBA in a chokehold for the majority of a decade, the Bulls finished their last season together on top. But with their 6th championship ring came the demise of the best team in basketball. By the start of the lockout season of '99, the Bulls championship roster had been completely dismantled. Rodman was released, Pippen was traded to Houston, Phil Jackson retired. The team was a shell of itself, so Michael felt like his time in the league had come to an end, and so he retired as well. Except he wasn't ready to leave the game. Over the years, Michael has been adamant about the fact that if the Bulls franchise brought back this team for another shot at a title, he would not have retired before the 1999 season. The one non-negotiable for Mike was that he refused to play for anyone other than Phil Jackson. But in the words of Jerry Krause,
Phil has 2 L's in it? Or is this a typo?
Former Bulls GM, Phil Jackson could have gone 82-0 with this team, and he was still going to be let go at the end of the '98 season. This decision essentially forced Michael into retirement. But just 5 months after Jordan announced his second retirement, Phil Jackson was hired as the head coach of a Lakers team on the verge of becoming the next great NBA behemoth. Meanwhile, Michael, who says he was absolutely sure about his decision to retire, was not quite ready to leave the game behind. Over the next couple years, videos surfaced of Mike visiting Bulls practices, terrorizing players in one-on-ones, clearly better than anyone in the gym. Reports at the time even detailed Michael seriously considering suiting up and playing in Spain for half a season. But before Michael made his return in Washington, he would often visit the Lakers. During practice, before games, he would go to their games and sit courtside, something he virtually never did with other teams. He would spend time with players.
No way he's about to say Mike was low-key about to play for the Lakers and Mike would have played with Shaq and Kobe, bro. No way, bro. I refuse to believe that's a story. No way.
Talking to Phil, even mentoring Kobe Bryant as he grew into a superstar. His involvement with the Lakers in the 1999 season was subtle, but had a massive...
The Bulls would not have beaten the Bulls if they met in the finals. I'd give that's a hot take.
The Bulls would not have beat... I guess? think that's a typo. Shout out to Jeff the Dream. Shout out to the first-time chatters in the building, man. Shout out to Jeff the Dream.
Effect on the team. Despite what he told us, Mike was not ready to retire in 1999. And with Phil Jackson coaching in LA, the obvious destination for the former Bulls great was to join the Lakers. But you see, the only problem was that by the time Jackson was hired to coach the team, Michael couldn't play basketball. It's been well documented that in the summer of 1998, Michael Jordan had caused severe damage to his right index finger while attempting to cut a cigar.
Damn.
In fact, in Jordan's retirement announcement, he mentions that the
Do y'all see that shit, bro? This shit, his, like, what is that? This shit is like sticking out like these, bro. What?
accident had severed a tendon in his finger and that the injury would require surgery. This injury, even if Michael never retired, would have sidelined him for the entire 1999 NBA season. And by the time he was physically able to return, the team that he had spent time around, developed relationships with, and was home to the only coach that he would play for were already champions, completely removing any possibility of Mike signing with the franchise since Michael refused to join a team that were already established champions. It goes against everything the man believes. If Michael Jordan never severed his finger in a freak cigar cutting accident in 1998, the nagging itch he had to return to the game might have taken place 3 seasons sooner, with the only team that...
I meant Hakeem and the Rockets. L typo.
I don't know. I feel like Hakeem and the Rockets were on the roll at least enough one of those seasons to just steal one ring from the Bulls, in my opinion.
Even had a chance at signing him, the Los Angeles Lakers. Instead, his injury delayed his return to the game and axed his chances of playing for Phil Jackson again and playing with Kobe and Shaq in a championship roster. This team could have happened. In a world where Michael Jordan doesn't get into a freak accident in the 1998 offseason, we may have seen a Lakers team featuring Shaq, Kobe, and Jordan entering the 1999 NBA season.
Nah, that would have been crazy, but I'm not gonna lie, chat. I'm kind of happy it didn't happen. I'm glad Kobe was able to build a legacy of his own, even though, you know, a lot of people do like to intertwine MJ and Kobe in those comparisons. And I do wonder how, like, Jordan would have been perceived if he joined Shaq and Kobe in their team, you know what I'm saying? Because the whole mystique with Jordan, or a big part of the mystique with Jordan, is the fact that he only played for the Bulls, and like those Wizards years was just kind of some years. He just wanted to get back into the game and have fun, you know what I'm saying? But if he essentially, not in his prime, but like at the back end of his prime, like the year after he won an MVP, like he was still an MVP caliber player, joined Kobe and Shaq, I wonder how these conversations that we have about Jordan would be. You know what I'm saying? Would ring culture be as prevalent as it is right now? Because I think a lot of y'all need to realize too, and this is just from what I've read, even when Jordan was racking up the rings, ring culture still wasn't as bad as what it is right now. I've seen multiple articles talking about how, like, a lot of people already believed Jordan was the GOAT after Ring 3. So that tells me that even back then, people viewed Jordan as the GOAT, not just because he was 6-0, undefeated in the finals, had more rings than this player, had more rings than that player. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was in those conversations and winning them because of how good he was on the court, because of other things. You know what I'm saying? So how would that conversation between Jordan and LeBron go if that whole loyalty thing is kind of out the water? Maybe he loses a finals in that, you know, in that journey. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. It'd be interesting. But let's see if there's any more left in the video, though.
Maybe instead of imploding a few years later, this team continues to win and stays together. Maybe Michael retires for the final time, not as a washed-up Washington Wizard, but instead a Bulls and Lakers legend with 3 or 4 more rings.
Ew.
Or maybe Michael's tyrant leadership drives Shaquille O'Neal out of LA, and we never get that 2000s Lakers dynasty at all. Maybe Michael's role on the team greatly reduces Kobe's, and we never see the true potential of the Black Mamba. And maybe everything went exactly the way it was supposed to, because that's the butterfly effect. when something almost insignificant spurs a series of events that leads to something much, much bigger.
And that's the butterfly effect on like a big scale. We don't even talk about the butterfly effect in a game. You know what I'm saying? Because another example is, and I know a lot of people in the chat are going to spam it up, like that whole argument of like, yo, the Warriors are lucky Chris Paul didn't get injured for Game 7. I understand it. I understand why like a lot of people give the Rockets the benefit of the doubt in that scenario because of the fact that Chris Paul is an impactful player for them. But in actuality, there is no guarantee that the Rockets still win even if Chris Paul is on the court. Do the Warriors play better with Chris Paul on the court? Do they play worse? We'll never know. You know what I'm saying? Does their offense run better? Does their defense run better or worse with Chris Paul on the court? You never know. You know what I'm saying? But shout out to Jimmy for the video, though. It was a fantastic video.